Science fiction has always eluded me somehow. For all of the action, comedy, horror, drama, or even romance series that I've encountered, I've talked about far less sci-fi ones. And don't even get started with talking about time travel to me, because then you would just lose me. In case you couldn't tell, I haven't seen any Doctor Who before. Actually, this gives me a good idea. Why don't we talk about an anime series that has time travel, an individual involved in that series that just happens to be a huge Doctor Who fan? I think this is going to get interesting. Steins Gate is a 24-episode and 1 OVA sci-fi series based on the visual novel by 5PB and Nitro Plus in 2009, with a North American release for various platforms between 2014 and 2015. Several manga adaptations spawned after this, and the anime premiered in April of 2011 from Studio White Fox and directors Hiroshi Hamasaki and Takuya Sato. As to this review, the series has been licensed by Funimation Entertainment in North America with an English dub directed by Colin Clunkenbeard. The series is also available thanks to Manga Entertainment in the UK and Madman Entertainment in Australia.
Rintaro Okabe is a self-proclaimed mad scientist who believes that an international scientific organization named CERN is conspiring to reshape the world according to its own interests. He and his friend Itoru Hashida inadvertently create a gadget able to send messages to the past. The discovery and experimentation of this instrument become the catalyst of fundamental alterations to the present. Okabe is the only one aware of these changes because he possesses a reading Steiner, the ability to retain the memories from previous experienced timelines. Oblivious of the consequences of their actions, Okabe and his friends end up creating modifications of grievous proportions. He must then try to find a way to return as close as possible to the original timeline in order to save his precious lab partners.
Red alert. I've been cornered by an agent. Possibly a sleeper, certainly illustrious.
Who are you talking to?
Fear not, I'll give her the slip, somehow. Perhaps...
It's not on. Great, you're crazy.
One of my favorite forms of animation is more of the dark and gritty style that you'll see with series that tend to have a darker story or a darker tone to them. Steins Gate is no exception to this, and it does use this form rather well. However, it also does bring in a few different changes.
Primarily, the use of shadow and light is what makes the animation stand out in Steins Gate a little more than others like, let's say, Monster, and for something more recent, Rampo Kitten. Lighting can be used in a blinding and bright way, while shadows and background textures can really bring out the darker moments the series has to offer. At the same time, those dark looks can sometimes be difficult to see, especially if you're watching the series fairly early in the morning like I did. Luckily, it was on a big enough screen so I could keep an eye on everything. But where the animation really shines are the time jumps and other odd moments that aren't a part of the everyday routine. They make a stark contrast to the other pieces of animation and make the otherworldly feel rather present. As for the soundtrack, it's a rather mixed bag. Taking obvious inspiration from the original visual novel, there are the lighthearted moments and pieces that work, but the soundtrack is, more or less, bombarded by much more haunting tracks that can carry the mood of a scene rather well.
The only real audible of the soundtrack is the opening theme, Hacking the Gate, which does actually complement the series both musically and animation-wise, while the ending theme by Yukisaki Kabata, because I'm not even going to bother trying to pronounce this title, fits more in with the sound of the overall series.
You are speaking to member 001, lab founder, evil genius, and mad scientist extraordinaire. 'Tis I, Hoin Kyoma.
I still think that Ocarine sounds way cuter.
Silence! My nom de plume is for special missions only.
Story-wise, Steins Gate can be split into two halves. The first being the establishment of the D-Mail system as well as our main cast of characters, while the second is basically fixing whatever you did in the first half in order to save someone. Logically, this kind of story makes sense, and on the surface, it progresses at a natural pace.
But if you look even deeper into the story, there's a lot more to it than what the surface level manages to tell you. With the amount of twists and turns that are thrown at you, particularly in the second half of the series, I was kept on my toes trying to figure out what was going on and how the story was going to progress. This even includes the additional OVA episode that is set a few months after the events of the main series. However, there is a drawback to all this, and it's one that I've seen happen with other anime time and time again. There are points where the episodes feel drawn out and will move rather slowly, making it a tiny bit hard to sit through. This, I realized, happened more during the first half of the series and much less during the second half. It's not as bad of a situation as, once again, Monster, but the problem is still there nonetheless, and if you're like me and aren't too fond of science fiction, or if you may even have a hard time with slow mystery stories, then you may have a hard time sitting through Steins Gate.
However, there is no denying that the series does keep my interest at the end of each episode. That in and of itself counts for a lot, including an ending that manages to tie up all the loose ends and make it work just for the series.
I'ma bust out some questions, yo, so holla at your boy! Word to your mother.
Sorry, I don't speak jive.
Well, that was nice and awkward.
If you had to look at the cast of characters, then maybe the word harem might come to some people's minds if they haven't seen the series before. I mean, because it kind of is set up a little bit like a typical harem, except luckily it's not.
The characters, while varying in personality, aren't exactly anything new in the long run. There are points where the characterization and development never really move forward and just stays rather grounded. While Okabe and a little bit of Makise can shift out of this rut, the remainder of the cast have much more one-note moments which can affect how the twists play out, since a good amount of them come from probably miles away and you can't really pick up on them so easily. This can be true about Moeka and Ferris especially, and maybe a little bit of Suzuha. Hell, Braun has some twists to him that come way out of left field. With most characters, you can get away with some of this. However, if this happens to characters that become very integral to the story, this can become a slight issue. Luckily, this doesn't affect the main four characters, Okabe, Mayuri, and Makise and Daru, which at least makes it easier to handle.
The characters may have some issues in the writing department, however, I didn't even notice this until a few days afterwards when I was trying to sit down and finish writing this review. Yeah, I admit, at least it keeps me on my toes.
I call shenanigans! You accepted outside help! Your victory was a deus ex machina, ergo that cake is a lie!
I was gonna give you the cherry, but no.
As mentioned before, the Funimation dub is directed by Colleen Clunkenbeard, and as for the script, it was a team effort between J. Michael Tatum and Patrick Seitz. Now this is where another one of my issues with the series comes in, the script of the dub. While the episodes that Seitz wrote worked really well, it was the episodes that Tatum wrote that made me do a couple of facepalms. Believe me, if you use the words "the cake is a lie," you kind of deserve a little facepalm. I've actually been noticing this a lot more since working on the Dub Talk podcast and noticing more directing work and script writing work. And with Tatum in particular, this isn't my first time having to deal with this kind of thing in his work. This is one of those cases where the material that is used for the script could possibly date it later on down the line. This isn't as big of an issue as it is for Ultimate Otaku Teacher, sure, but it's still a rather huge problem I have.
As for the actual voice acting performances, it's rather solid all around, with work from Jeremy Lee, Jade Saxton, Lindsay Seidel, Jessica Kavanaugh, Brina Palencia, and Christopher Sabat. You obviously have a mix of well-known voice actors. As for the ones I consider to be the main cast members, Tyson Reinhardt's performance as Daru was one of the standouts in my mind, as he is officially the best otaku pervert ever. Under the name Jackie Ross, Ashley Birch takes on the role of Mayuri, who is just as cute and moe as the character calls for. Trina Nishimura's Makise is a perfect balance to Okabe's voice actor, yet is still able to capture Makise's moments of doubt very well. Speaking of Okabe, let's bring back the Doctor Who fan, J. Michael Tatum, shall we? And you thought I wasn't going to refer to that again. Tatum had probably the most difficult task going into dubbing this series. Creating a performance that was either as good or better than Seiyu Mamoru Miyano, a very tall order if you ask me. While he may not have outdone Miyano, Tatum at least reaches a similar level in his performance thanks to Okabe's overdramatic nature, which is probably the main reason why Tatum was given the role in the first place. However, he still manages to shed the theatrics over time, creating a very human performance by the end.
Seeing as how Tatum is currently one of my all-time favorite voice actors, I enjoyed the performance. Now, if only I could like the script a little bit more. I'm sorry, Tatum. Please don't hate me. After making several time leaps, Steins Gate is one ride you will not want to see come to an end. Both the mystery and the science parts of the story are really nice elements. However, it's the twists and turns along the way that make it worth the ride. Not only that, but the cast of characters and the range of personalities we get to meet make the journey all the more thrilling. On the downside, the animation may have you squinting on occasion, and parts of the dub script may make you either laugh or insert palm to forehead. Despite all of that, Steins Gate is not only a show I think everyone should watch, but I do think that it's more than worthy of being on everyone's shelf. Hell, I'm surprised I haven't seen this one sooner. Next time, I take on my first manga request. If you want to see that review, make sure you check out the link in the description below to the full blog site for that and much more content. Until next time, otaku on, my friends.